to Inside AOT. This is our program for ourselves where we have a chance to get to know one another in a very formal and friendly setting. This is for AOT staff only, and we get to spend the full hour learning about some of our coworkers and friends in a certain part of the agency and learning about what they do. As you know, really it's just fun and interesting. There are so many intelligent, specialized, energetic, engaged people who work at this awesome agency, and this is a chance to feature them. And for those of you who join us to learn about something new and maybe get ideas about where your work overlaps with our guests' work, you know, so we can have new collaboration and new ideas. So with no further ado, we have 3 guests joining us today. We are taking a deep dive into intelligent transportation systems and the Transportation Management Center. So we have Ryan Knapp with us, who leads this whole group, ITS, the Intelligent Transportation System. And then Ian Kilburn is the supervisor of the Transportation Management Center, or the TMC, which is our 24/7, 365 operation. And then Roger Bodette is a TMC operator. Oh my gosh, couldn't have choreographed that any better. Thank you, Roger. And he'll be joining us as well today to kind of give us, you know, a day in the life, what it's really like running the TMC. And since we do have a variety of people joining us today, just to kind of situate everyone with where these guys are in the agency, they work in the Highway Division and then in the Operations and Safety Bureau. And that is the bureau that's led by Josh Schultz and Todd Sears, and then Ryan's team is within that. So we're going to take a few minutes and let Ryan, Ian, and Roger introduce themselves. Then we'll talk through some questions. And toward the end, when we have 10 or 15 minutes left, we'll open it up to questions from the audience. And it works well to use the chat for that, so I can just kind of scan the questions if there are repeats, or if there's somebody who has an HR question or something that doesn't really belong here, we can just kind of skim over that and stick on our subject here today. So Ryan, why don't you kick it off? Actually, let's do personal introductions first. If each of you would just take a turn to tell us a little bit about yourself, whatever you'd like to share of your professional biography, and you know, something fun from your personal life, where you live, something about your family, a hobby, whatever you'd like to share with us. So sure. Ryan, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for having us. So Ryan Knapp, my title is the ITS section chief, and as Amy said, we're situated within the Operations and Safety Bureau. I am, I'm in year 13 of employment here with the state. Started as a temporary in asset management, doing some data collection on our small culvert inventories. And then from there, I started testing hot mix asphalt at our production plants all across the state. And that was over at the materials unit within the Construction and Materials Bureau. And from there, that's where I first became a supervisor, supervising that hot mix field testing unit. And then back in late winter 2019, I seized the opportunity to become the TMC supervisor, which is the role that Ian currently fills. And then about 15 months ago, I was promoted to the ITS section chief. So that's been my career track here at AOT. And I've been able to, I hired Ian after I got promoted. And then along the way, I guess, Roger, you were one of my hires here in the TMC as well. So thank you both. Now, Ian, I'll let you take it from there and you can introduce yourself.
Sounds good. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Amy. Appreciate the opportunity for this. Ian Kilburn. Like Ryan and Amy stated, I'm the TMC supervisor. Before this role, I took on in late January of last year. I was with the state over at the Emergency Management Division. I was the administrator of our VT Alert program. Prior to that, I served 9 years at the Shelburne Police Department dispatching. So we were a 911 call center as well as a regional dispatch agency. For I think at the time when I left, we had about 30 or so agencies that we dispatched for. Other professional avenues, I've been an EMS provider for 16 years. So since college, I still currently am an EMT in Colchester where I live. I have served with the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner's Office as a investigator since 2015. Bunch of other various roles here or there, very largely public safety focused, and that's what I really enjoy about this position is still being able to be within that realm. Work with the folks that I've worked with for many, many years, and established really good relationships with. So it's been a great ride, and I apologize, my camera might keep washing out as my light is directly above me. No, but I've really enjoyed my time here at the agency. I look forward to many more years. It's been a great agency to work with, lots of different moving parts and pieces, and that 24/7 aspect I apparently just can't keep away from. So
Great. Thank you, Ian. Roger, over to you. And thanks for having such a cool setup that gives us, it kind of sets the scene, for what you guys are doing, very map oriented. Go for it. We'd love to hear your bio, Roger.
Yeah, Roger Bodette. I've been, I started out small engine repair, just coming out of high school. From there, I worked with United Parcel Service for about 10 years. I was in management a little bit the last couple of years of that. I came out of that, went into my own contracting for 25, 30 plus years. From there, I've worked 7 years with Bella Vance Trucking Company, working with them. And now it'll be 5 years this November that I've been TMC operator here, working with Ryan and Ian, and enjoying every minute of it.
Nice.
I do currently still have the keys to the kingdom here this this afternoon, so hopefully the phone will cooperate. But if I do get a call, I'll just go off while I deal with that.
Yep, sounds good. All right, so all three of you guys skipped the tell us something fun outside of work. So not going to let you off easy. Give us something: pets, kids, hobbies, travel. Come on. Ryan.
All right, we'll go around the horn again here, and I realized that right after I handed it off. So I got married. Let's see. So I'll give you kind of a quick 5-year synopsis. So I've got married in the last 5 years. My wife and I built a house, and we now have a 13-month-old daughter. And I live really close to the country club of Barrie, and I spend a lot of time there. Just enjoy being outside and doing outdoor things. So yeah, so new house, new family, and I guess a new job too.
Right. Is your daughter walking?
She is. She's walking. She's running, jogging, whatever toddlers do.
Yep. Right.
Waddling quickly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good luck
Yep.
keeping up.
Yep. She's got 5 teeth and she's mobile, so things are changing fast.
Nice. Awesome. Thank you, Ryan. Ian, back to you.
all righty. Yeah, it's in a similar vein. In the last 5 years, I had 2 career changes, which has been amazing. Me and my lovely better half, my girlfriend, and I live here in Colchester. She's just finishing up her 4th year of medical school, so long road, but it's been great. I have my 11-year-old dog who's not currently sitting whining behind me, but normally is when I'm working from home. Other than that, I love to do photography and read, travel as well. We're planning a trip to Ireland later this spring, which would be fantastic. We've done a lot of Caribbean in the last couple of years. So that's really what's on the horizon here. So.
Fantastic. Awesome. Thank you. Roger.
Let's see. Well, hobbies. I like bike riding, or motorcycle, I should say. I've been started that 20 years ago. Actually starting to get out of that. I want to get off of it on a high note rather than a bad note. Lisa and I enjoy camping, hiking, outdoor activities. Just took up downhill skiing last year for the first time myself. Lisa's been doing it for a while. I do great going up the chairlifts. Downhill, not so good, but I'm getting there.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I love it.
Don't sell yourself short. It can be. I've seen some people bungle the whole getting on the chairlift part. So
yeah. Well,
that's part of it.
I've bungled it getting off it too. But yeah, so it's all good. Got 5 grandkids, so everything's good.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you all. So let's dive into it. So you guys are the team that's really the front lines. This is like what I think of really the nuts and bolts of what we do, right? I mean, we maintain this huge transportation infrastructure system, primarily the roads, and anything can happen at any time. The weather has gotten wilder, more varied in recent years, and you guys have seen some stuff out on our highways and interstates. So let's start breaking down what this looks like for you all to manage this work, nonstop, 24/7, year-round, emergencies, all of it, weather, everything. So Ryan, why don't you give us an overview of ITS? Tell us a little bit about what that is, and then what it looks like at AOT.
Sure. So ITS, you may or may not have heard the term, but it's Intelligent Transportation Systems, which can really be boiled down to technology that helps people manage traffic. It's data flows, and it's just getting real world information from the road into some sort of like operation center, so you can make decisions based on what you're learning out there. So it includes traffic signals and our message boards and our weather stations. And then there's other technology that you're probably less familiar with or even aware of. Various sensors that get embedded in the asphalt surfaces in the roadway that are collecting data such as the number of cars or vehicles that are traveling that roadway. It's classifying them in terms of how large they are, whether it's a motorcycle or a passenger car or a pickup truck or a school bus. So there's all this technology that's deployed out there that's continuously collecting data. And some of that's used operationally in real time, which Ian can go into in a minute here. But, essentially from the, you want to think about it like hierarchical from the top down. As the ITS section chief, we program all of the ITS equipment and we install it and we maintain it. And then from the operational side of things, which is where Ian sits, the day-to-day, they interact with this equipment. They use that information that equipment provides to do their day job, to inform their operations day to day. So like, the ITS side, we implement the equipment, and then, the Ian side of the shop, they're really using it. And I say Ian side of the shop is using it. The cool thing that I like about the work that we do is like it has a purpose. It always comes back to, quite frankly, the federal government gives us money. We shall execute a mission, and that mission is providing traveler information to the public. That's like our core mission. So, but by extension of that, there's all kinds of other units, divisions, bureaus within AOT that are also benefiting from this information, and they use it to help design our roadways. And we provide reporting information to the federal government. And the maintenance districts use this information, and the state police use this information. And the public uses our 511 travel information website. the cameras, that's all publicly available. So it's kind of this, it really is this melting pot of all sorts of different disciplines and whatnot coming together. And so we have a wide variety of customers and people that we provide services to. So that's, if I could, sort of pinpoint one sort of overarching theme, or like, one of our objectives, like long-term within really our bureau, not even just ITS, but it's, you'll hear us say, we want to tell our story more, which is why we're here today, right? We're hoping to educate folks, let you guys know about the services we provide, because we do, in order to execute our mission effectively, there's a lot of cross-cutting that we do with other sections and other bureaus and agencies, departments. We're talking about the Department of Public Safety and the state police. We liaise with all kinds of folks all across the board. So jack of all trades, master of none. People hear me say that all the time, because we tout ourselves as, the single point of contact for all of our partner agencies. And then if you need something out of AOT, we can get you to the right person to have your question answered. Whether that's an operational real-time need, or it's, more on the planning side of things. We like to, we connect people in a lot of what we do.
Great, terrific, thank you. So Ian, take us down. Now we're honing in a little bit more. So that's sort of the bigger picture overview. So now take us inside the TMC, and if you can maybe describe the room a little bit for those who have never been there, and just give us an overview.
Absolutely. So as Ryan stated, really our main objective is disseminate traveler information. So whether that be to the public, to the various stakeholders that Ryan had mentioned, our maintenance districts, the Vermont State Police, municipal police departments, first responder agencies. We liaise with emergency management quite a bit, especially during times of disasters. Really in putting that into the situational awareness piece. What's going on with our mobility? What are we expecting? What are we seeing? So, and also what Ryan stated, that 24/7 contact, right? We're here, we're that outward, putting that notice out for mobility concerns via a 511 website. Entering all that data in the back end of the system, our ATMS or New England Compass, but also working with our maintenance districts. They're a large customer of ours, working with and sometimes for other agencies, Vermont State Police, connecting those dots. It's really just that central hub of information internally and externally to the agency. As far as the room, we are located over at Dill on Airport Road over in Berlin. We have a nice little alcove with a video wall, a couple of different stations. So we have a very large video wall with 8 screens. That's Ryan's trying to point to. That is just off camera. Oh, there it is. Not currently displaying anything right now, as I'm remote. Roger's also remote as well. We do have the capabilities for our operators to work remotely, which is great. We do scale. We have the ability to scale up, and the work location is still the Dill building in Berlin, where we have redundant communications, backup internet, our radio consoles, with some redundancies there, as well as our desk phones, cell phones, satellite phones, always working to just really increase, so that if anything, an all hazards approach is really what I gained from my time at emergency management. Was not plan for the one little specific things, but just making sure we're ready, mission ready for any type of disaster, because our response generally is going to be very similar to from a multi-car pile up to flooding to what have you. So I know Roger's on the phone right now, so we can.
Yeah, look, this
fill a
is
little
great.
time.
Live action. If we
Yeah. And
take
if you want,
pictures.
Amy, I could hold down the fort while Roger's on the phone, but I think to give some historical context, I just want to give the TMC props for coming a long way in like the last 5 years or so. They, one of the original points that was, one of my initial charges when I became the TMC supervisor was like, we got to figure out how to go 24/7. At the time it was, if you called in the middle of the night, you were getting answering service. It's kind of how, we had two full-time operators and that was it. So, been a lot of changes, a lot of build up, over the last few years to sort of get, into this steady state of 24/7 operations, which is, I got to give these guys a lot of credit. We accomplished that with the absolute bare minimum in terms of personnel. It can be a drag at some points and really wear on people, but kudos to the team because someone's always going to answer the phone.
Right. Yeah. And I can say, so I've been here just 5 years now, and I've seen the TMC change through the lens that, I work with you guys through, which is communications and the communications out to the public when there's something going on. So Ryan, I remember working with you during that the Halloween rainstorm. I don't know if that was that 2019?
That was 2019. And
Yeah.
Amy, I remember this. We started on the exact same day.
Yep. So we're, coming up on 5 years. So during that storm, and it was through the weekend, I was getting road closure updates from Ryan and putting them on our website homepage. We activated the red banner and I was monitoring this list, and we had, I don't know, 15,000 unique, hits on our website during that first 48-hour period. And so whenever the TIC is activated, the Transportation Incident Command Center, when we're dealing with emergency response, we tend to be in person, and there's a lot of collaboration. A most recent example was in the July flooding, just to see how far we'd come. Ian is trying to keep social media updated with all the road closures and some reopenings as that started to happen. And, we both had the same thought in the same moment, Ryan too, and put our heads together and thought, this is insane, updating this closure list on social media every hour. This event is huge, it's overwhelming. And we just made the command decision to get it off social media and start training Vermonters. Go to 511, go to the New England 511 website for all of your road closure information. And then that was all we had to post on social media, sometimes with instructions about how to create an account or highlighting some of the features so you could set routes. But communication is a big part of it, because these guys are dealing with, incoming information about incidents on the road, but then trying to, gauge when and how and what information to get out to the media and the public. Welcome back, Roger. So if you could take us a little further down as we hone in on operations, tell us a little bit about day to day. What is it like? We just saw you take a call. I don't know if it's not top secret. Maybe you can tell us if it was anything interesting, just to give us a sense of, what's coming in and then what do you need to send out?
Yeah, day to day for me or any of us operators. We take all the calls, anything pertaining to the highways, if there's a problem on the highways. We typically talk to the VSB dispatchers. The majority of the calls come from them. And they could be reporting, a crash. And due to the crash, it could be a lane closure, it could be a road closure. They're calling us for product for salt, roads are icy. If a tree goes down, windy weather, when trees come down, anything pertaining to the Vermont highways. We get those calls, and then we have to then contact the correct district for that area to let them know, and then they send out their, their maintenance crews go out and take care of the situation. And then going along with that, that will also, for us to create an event, which then the purpose for their call, if it was a road closure or lane closure, this is where we work with it on our end, and it shows up on the 511. So that the general public can see that there's, a tree down, or a crash, the road's closed. So that's how we get the information into the 511. The calls can vary a lot on what the call is. The call that I was just on was Bill's Center. I received a call from VSB Dispatch of a vehicle losing something out of the back on US 7 turning onto 346 in Pownell. They said it was pottery, and it was also a car had also received a flat tire of it already. So Bill was just getting back to me because he said there's a lot of vehicles, or most vehicles, he said there's a dump right there, and he said a lot of the trucks and personal vehicles that go in there do not have tarps, and he says this is a reason of why they get a lot of those calls for that area. He didn't know if DMV, could sit down there and police this. So we were just, talking back and forth about that. I don't think that's something DMV would do, but that's what that particular call was.
Right. Roger, does the TMC also manage rail and aviation incidents, or is it strictly the roadways?
Well, those calls will come into us when, if it's pertaining to a area where the railroad is crossing, on the Vermont Highway or something like that. We do get those calls, and then we immediately will contact, the rail or aviation people and let them know what's going on, and then they take it from there. And then we will also, again, if that involves a road closure or something to that line, we'll do our end as well.
So work the other way as well. If there's a rail or aviation incident and maybe a roadway is not affected, will those areas of the agency let you know? Because situational awareness is, a huge part of what you all are doing. Is there an awareness throughout our agency to make sure you guys are in the know of what's happening?
Yeah, I think so, because I know we have had some pretty big derailments that we were notified and aware of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
Amy, I think that's something that's sort of we've been, I say, you heard me say, telling our story, and it's been happening organically, sort of over time, at least in my time in these positions, is, when you hear about something after the fact, it's just we're always coaching folks like, hey, making that personal connection, be like, this is why we really need to know about these things. Like a small example would be the S1111 permits, which, a utility company or somebody wants to do work within the state right of way. They go to the district project managers and they get a permit for it. But the reality is, whatever that permit's for, it really doesn't matter. It's likely impacting our roadway one way or another. So that's mobility. That means we want to know about it. So just something as simple as that, and us working with the PMs and being like, hey, when you're processing, when you're approving these permits, like just CC the TMC so we're aware of what's going on. And if there's a rolling roadblock, we can get that on the 511 site so the public's aware of it. So that's one small example, but we're always trying to build bridges and let people know what we're here for.
Right. Right. And I'll just add again on the communications and public outreach part of it. So one part of what I do is work with these 6 different firms that provide outreach through a contract for each of our active construction projects. And going back a couple of years ago, when there's active construction, anything can happen. Usually things go fine. We're just, getting the job done. But we had a couple incidents where, I'm in a meeting or on a phone call with a reporter, come to find an email sitting in my inbox from one of our public information consultants letting me know, because they've heard from our project manager, something has happened in the work zone and the road is closed. And, you know, my first thought is, has anyone notified the TMC? So we have now made it policy with all of them. If you are emailing me to tell me or calling me about an incident, the TMC is on that email as well. They're the ones who need to know and do something about it. I just need to know to be like, oh, wow, sounds like a hard day out on that project. But, you know, don't tell me, tell the TMC. So again, just communicating out to the public, you know, all of this emergent information that's coming in is critical. So let's talk a little bit about emergency response. That's a pretty big focus, you know, of the agency being ready, all of the lessons we've learned from Irene and what we have done in that time. The fact that we have our own dedicated emergency management director who now is directing an entire team. And again, just for context for our audience, right now, Ryan and Ian and I are part of a team that's meeting weekly to start preparing for the solar eclipse on April 8th. So the TIC is already activated and working just to prepare because, as Kevin Marshy put it, we see that as a motor vehicle event. Many hundreds of thousands of cars likely heading into Vermont for a 4-minute event and then immediately turning around and trying to head out, at which moment we're expecting gridlock. So emergency management, emergency preparedness and response, a big part of what you guys do. Ian, do you maybe want to tell us a little bit about that? And if you have any good stories, we'd love to hear them.
Absolutely. So during emergency response, the agency, for any of those who are not aware, will stand up our incident command structure or ICS structure. And what the TMC's role in that is we fold up and actually just form the situation unit under the planning section. So what we do day in, day out, situational awareness. So Ryan and I usually will tag team the unit lead role within that, so the operators can continue to do their day-to-day work, which the volumes increase, of course, but for the most part, the day-to-day work is still the same, right? There's, you know, regardless of how big the event is, we still have our day-to-day stuff, as well as, you know, event-specific things. So, you know, the most recent events we've had would be, you know, the July flooding, December flooding events, clearly impacting mobility. So we played a very large role in that. And within that, there is what the operators are doing every day is entering in the closures, working with the districts, you know, helping coordinate movement and response, you know, in a way we're not directly telling the districts what they should do, because that's not our job, it's not our expertise, but advising them of what is going on, really playing that middleman of taking that information in, synthesizing it to what's applicable for us as the agency of transportation. And what we've done, and I can't take any credit for this whatsoever. This was already established and it's been refined since, is our common operating picture. Part of that situational awareness is providing executive level leadership, as well as externally to the agency and also internally to the TIC, or the Transportation Incident Command Center, which is at DIL, and then to the regional commands of what's going on statewide as it relates to closures. So we will synthesize that data that we're already entering in every day into just what is going on for this event, right? So you can go to 501 and you can see everything that's going on, add multiple layers, see our construction projects, see the incident closures. But during an incident response, we will filter that down to what is impacting for XYZ event, right? Whether it's a large scale flooding event like we've seen, which we continue to see, which we will continue to see, to, you know, any methyl ethyl bad thing that happens across the state, whether it's large or small in nature, if it's taxing resources that would normally be able to handle their day-to-day, then that's when the decision, potentially could be made to activate the tick, specific regional commands. So just really providing that situational awareness, providing data within the situation unit. Obviously, the TMC operators play a very critical role, but we do have agency-wide, very talented individuals in regards to GIS, so geospatial information. So within that, we have mapping specialists that fall within for the tick, for the situation unit, and those folks are just really helping us visualize this data. Part of that is the COP, any other products that are being produced. There's always some crazy asks here or there. And as you stated, Amy, some fun things that we learned and adapted on the fly, dealing with this large list that we're manually of all these closures. No, let's condition people to find them, because they may only care about a small little area, so you can just zoom right in on the map. So little things like this that we're learning, changing. We're very malleable. I think as a unit, we're always looking for improvement. We learn them through these large scale events where our resources are just absolutely tapped. I remember the first day of the flood in July. Well, wasn't the first true day. We had the landslide down in the Killington Bridgewater area a couple days prior. Remember, I was very excited for a weekend off, and that didn't quite happen. I think I had to charge my phone more times in those 2 days than I did all week. But what that Monday of the flood, everybody had reported into the office, and Roger, Ryan, myself, Eric Rabin, who is our software specialist, we were all working, and that phone just did not stop ringing. There was 4 of us in there just entering enclosures, and when shift changed and Chris Mercon came in, it was very much the same, and it just kept going. And Ryan and I kind of looked at each other and go, all right, it's a little bit of a lull. Somebody should go home and get some sleep. It turned into a long night of me being cut off from home, because I live in Colchester, going to Walmart in the middle of the night, buying a air mattress and sleeping on the TMC floor. So it was a very wild and chaotic first 48 plus hours or so. And but we got through it. I give all the credit to the team. They really stepped up, and it was I find in times of crisis that you really find people's character, and they really shined. They really did. It was fantastic. So
I want to add my 2 cents on that. So I also was at Dill with all of you guys when the flood started and the tick was activated. And so what my world looked like is media freaking out, wanting information, calling me having to figure out, the command structure has to kind of approve and be aware of media response. They're busy. I need road closure information. So I'm basically, running back and forth between the TMC and the tick room. Every single time I walk in there, all of you are completely calm, as if it's the most boring day at work and nothing is happening, and you would like some more stimulation. So I don't know if that's part of the hiring process, but all of you have the right demeanor for the work, and just your ability to be interrupted. I'd walk in with a question, and A+ customer service while you're managing all of this other stuff. So I can attest these guys are fantastic at what they do. So another fun area of work is the highway message boards. We'll switch gears a little bit. And I want to just be cognizant of time and make sure we hit on a couple other topics and leave time for questions at the end. But Ryan, this has been in the media for the last few weeks on the national level and in Vermont. because the FHWA is saying they might take something away from people that they really like, which is witticisms on the message boards. So tell us a little bit about the messages, your role in selecting them,
Sure.
and if you want to just touch a little bit on the whole funny factor and where we are with that.
Yep. Yeah. So you gotta in order to understand like the funny factor and the direction the feds are coming from, you gotta understand like the purpose, the historical purpose of the message boards, which is with remote connectivity, right? We can put a message on the boards wherever they are, assuming they have cell service at their location. You can tell people that there's something happening ahead of you, that they otherwise wouldn't have known about. It provides a decision point. It enhances safety at crash scenes because people who are barreling down the interstate, they can get a warning that they're gonna have to stop ahead of them. So that's sort of like there's some pretty strict rules and regulations around how the boards are supposed to be used. Like you're not supposed to be advertising anything. You shouldn't have phone numbers or websites on there. They should really be used for managing traffic incidents or for safety campaigns. Related to roadway safety. So kind of woven into a lot of that very boring, regulation language is stuff about, not having messages on all the time, that people become numb to it. If it's just, there's always something there, the same thing every day. They just stop looking, they stop caring, they stop paying attention. So we're always cognizant of oversaturation in terms of like the safety campaign stuff, because every week, every month of the year, the National Highway Safety Administration, like there's some safety campaign, whether it's Motorcycle Safety Week, Construction Worker Safety Week, the list goes on and on. So like point is you could always have something on there, but kind of take a strategic approach. So sort of in that vein of, we want to make sure people aren't ignoring the message boards, sort of leaned into this. We started with some of the holiday messaging and sort of tried to capitalize on the fact that there's typically more motorists on the road during those holiday weekends. So more people are going to see our safety messages. And then also garnering more attention. So messages that get people's attention and not just, you're everyone's seeing click it or ticket, drive well Vermont, or something kind of a little more mundane or perhaps punitive in some people's minds. And so that's when we kind of leaned into some of like, cultural references around, said holiday, or, leveraging, some of the commonly known movies or jokes, or just honestly just rhyming, using words that rhyme or references to reindeer or a snowman or what have you. And the result has been quite amazing, honestly. And so we were threading this needle of appropriate use of message boards, because we're always coming back to, it has to be related to roadway safety. These, again, safety campaigns, traffic incident management or safety campaigns. So always trying to tie them back into the safety element so that, we're using the boards appropriately. I guess over the last few years, I think more states are taking this approach. And sort of, again, trying to relate to road users and be a little more humorous. And the reality is that it's generated a ton of conversation about road safety, about the messages. If people are talking about the messages, there's that element of road safety. So they're talking about road safety. So from our side of the shop, it's like, this is great. From a public relations standpoint, maybe we get compliments from the public emailing in. Just coworkers talking about, their parents bringing it up at Thanksgiving dinner, or so we just know people are talking about it. I mean, the examples go on and on. I've probably, Amy, I don't even know how many times I've been interviewed about it from various news outlets, podcasts, CAX, NBC5. I mean, over the years, there's been at least 5 or 6, inquiries, people wanting to come and talk to us about this program and why we do it and how we do it, and sort of the reasons behind it. So again, more, generating conversations about highway safety, and to sort of bring this full circle, with the State Highway Safety Office, it's apparent and obvious that a lot of the safety issues we have on our roadways are behavioral issues. So it's not that the curve is too sharp or the speed limit's too high or the road's too slippery. It really comes down to, and when you look at the data, it's impairment, it's speeding, it's ill-equipped vehicles, it's inexperienced drivers, it's unbuckled passengers or drivers. So these are decisions that people are making that you can't engineer your way out of by reconfiguring a roadway or installing a new sign or guardrail. So like I feel like we're adding to that sort of behavioral aspect of like, the needs that we have right now, which is we're trying to change driver behavior. And so the point is we have people talking about it, and I think that's a major positive. So to sort of essentially the code manual, the NUTCD that sort of guides how all of these things work. It was updated at the end of 2023, and there was some pretty strong language in there about avoiding humor and pop culture references because essentially they didn't want road users to be confused. So their point being, if not everyone understands it, then they're spending more time trying to understand what it means, therefore taking their attention away from the road. I would argue that there's zero data to suggest there's a negative impact of the messages. But anyways, I don't think from a federal perspective, they're expecting such pushback, like nationwide. This is not, we had Canadian media outlets wanting to talk to us. We had the Wall Street Journal wanting to talk to us. We had, it was attention from all corners. And so they have put out a statement since then and sort of softly walked it back a little bit. And highlighted the fact that they're recommending against it, and it's not a strict black and white no fly zone. So that's encouraging. We're continuing on as normal until someone tells us otherwise.
So the clarification message from FHWA was such a fine piece of writing. So I saw this through the AASHTO communications group because that group, we talk to each other when there's a national media push, and all of us were getting inundated with press inquiries about this potential change to the message boards. So the FHWA, the clarifying memo, it starts off, yes, the new memo said, when the focus is too much on being witty and having fun, it can be confusing and the safety message can be lost. And then they start backpedaling from there, to basically say, well, we're not telling anyone that they can't be funny, blah, 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 blah. And this came out in December, and it ended with a smiley emoji, and it said, remember, Santa's watching, don't speed. So when I read that, I was like, they get it, that simple, funny messages like that. Obviously, the safety message is going to be clear. And as Ryan said, why not engage people with humor and something light? It's all about changing driver behavior. So if we can get them thinking, that's a good thing. Before we switch gears away from that, do you have a favorite that you want to share with us?
It's got to be the in-laws one. Camp in the woods, not the left lane. That's classic, especially for the state of Vermont. And
in-laws one.
The in-laws is visiting the in-laws, slow down, be late, which I think is just brilliant.
Yep. So we've got a few more minutes before I want to open it up to questions. When the four of us met to kind of prep for today, we talked about some wild stories. You guys mentioned everything from hot air balloon to suitcases, stuffed teddy bear, cows and goats on 91. Roger, do you want to tell a favorite story from a call you got it, and all of a sudden in one fine moment on a regular work day, you're like, what's happening on the highway?
Muted,
Roger.
Roger, you muted.
Sorry about that. Yeah, we get calls for a lot of ridiculous things sometimes, and sometimes you really want to say something, but it's, the dispatcher that calls it in, they have to do it. If they get a call from their trooper or their sergeant, they have to call us. So, but we've had some good ones. I actually just had one the other day where the dispatcher called me and wanted us, somebody lost their groceries on VT11 in Winhall and wanted to know if we'd go pick up the groceries off the highway. And I pretty much just told her, I said, I'm not going to call out a truck to go pick up groceries on a highway, because they're not going to be there by the time they get there anyway. So I thought that was a little bit comical. We've had one shortly after I first started. Some motorist son or whatever threw out a small teddy bear out the window, and he actually called the state police and put a ransom on it, that if somebody found it, he would pay X amount of dollars to get this little teddy bear back. I don't know if it was ever found, but so you just never know what you're going to get for calls. It can be pretty hilarious sometimes.
And I'd like to hear one animal story. I don't know, Ryan, Ian, if either of you have an animal story, but you mentioned cows and goats on the interstate. Who's got that story?
Yeah, wasn't there Bolton Flats? Wasn't there some cows in Bolton Flats last summer? Does that one ring a bell, Ian?
I feel like I mean, we live in a wildlife, state, right? So we get, unfortunately we get the animals struck by, quite a bit, largely wildlife. But yes, we will, there's sections of 89. I remember taking 911 calls many years ago about goats on 91. There's just livestock gets loose and it just wants to wander where it wants to wander, and it's always kind of comical. It's even better when we can catch them on our Arwis cameras. So we tend to try and snip the funnier ones. But off the top of my head, me personally, I tend to be a little bit of a white cloud at times until things really go crazy, and then it's the levees break. So I can't think of it, and just the many years of answering wild and crazy other things in various parts of my life. But no, we definitely get those. It's always entertaining, and it's very also heartwarming when things turn out well. So if we call you, district folks that are on the call, or anyone that, if there's a good outcome, we would love to hear it, because that's definitely encouraging. We don't hear a lot of good news, so it's good when we get it to share it.
Yeah, and Amy, every once in a while we get a tip that's invalid. So going back to the flooding in July, I remember getting a tip from somebody that stated the floating bridge in Brookfield had detached, and was basically in danger of going over the dam, the Sunset Lake Dam over there in Brookfield. Turned out that was not true, but boy, did that catch a lot of people's attention when we thought the newly constructed floating bridge was going to be sent over the dam.
Yep. I heard from the media about that one for sure.
Yeah. No.
So,
oops, sorry.
Go ahead. That's
so
okay.
I just real quick, just an anecdote, it just popped into my head. Back to the flood, the Friday night where Chris Mercon was working, and ended up being his weekend on standby, and he calls me and goes, yeah, so there's a large rock and mudslide that just went over Route 4. I go, oh gosh, here we go. And I remember calling Wayne Gamble at the time, and he goes, well, what information do you know? I go, Wayne, this is really all I've got. And, in typical Wayne fashion, he's like, all right, well, I'm getting in the car and I'm heading right down there, and I'll let you know what's going on. So he gave us the real boots on the ground. And I think that really just speaks to this agency, and what we foster is just, all right, if we can't figure it out, if we don't know it, then we're going to go figure something out. And I thought that was great. So
yeah, definitely. Yep. Well, let's take some questions from our audience. And if you would please put your question in the chat so I can scan them and I'll read them out to you guys, Ian, Ryan, and Roger. So if anyone has a question, either a follow-up about something that we've heard that you wanted to clarify or know a little bit more about, or if there's an area of work, that we didn't get into that you want them to touch on, any questions at all, please put them in the chat. And I see some hands up, but if you would just use the chat, that'd be easier for us. Thank you. So what state agency is responsible for picking up roadkill on the interstates?
Oh, I'll take this one. We have this conversation all the time, right? So I think technically by statute it belongs to, if it's wildlife, it's fish and game. But it gets into this weird, if it's in the roadway, is it a mobility concern? So does it become ours? We do have a memorandum of understanding with Fish and Wildlife that if it's on limited access highways during normal business hours, then we will go remove it. And part of that policy, or part of that MOU, is removing it so that it's out of the line of sight of the motoring public. It's no longer posing a hazard to road users. That's kind of been stretched here or there, from limited access highways to we get calls about all of our state roads, sometimes not even state roads. And we have to remind the dispatchers, no, that's not ours. Generally what we say is, it's a 4-hour call out. If they have a trooper on, they've been very good. The team and has been good over the years of letting them know, like, hey, if you got a troop out, then it's going to be a lot quicker than us sending somebody out to drag it out of the side of the road, and we'll take a look at it the next business day. So it's really a hodgepodge of everybody with their hands in the pot, but we do that. Hopefully that answered the question, Melissa.
Does anybody else have any questions? I feel like you guys have covered a lot in an hour, so thank you. Okay, got a couple more here. What efforts are being made to provide construction notices to motorists? Is the agency moving toward limiting work hours based on traffic counts and volumes during peak hours and possibly identifying those peak hours in the contact documents?
So I'll answer this a little globally. And I know, Amy, we work very closely when it comes to construction projects for anything planned. So when we're notified of construction projects, we will enter all that information. The engineers here on the call are very smart, and we try and take your engineer speak and make it something that the public can understand. So we'll post that onto 511 so that it shows up on navigation apps. And really everything that we do is really just trying to keep people safe, right? So keep construction crews safe, keep everybody around those. If it's an incident, keep those folks safe. As far as anything
So I'll add to
go
that
ahead.
one as well, because a lot of those questions are about, active construction. That's, it's planned closures. It's planned alternating one-lane traffic. So public outreach really has the key role in that. The general standing agreement between public outreach and the TMC is anything planned. That's me and my team. Anything emergent, that's Ian and his team at the TMC. So again, we have this group of 6 consulting firms that are working with each of our PMs on each project. They send out weekly email updates to their stakeholder list. And then from that, my team creates the weekly road construction report. Every Friday, it goes to the media, it goes on our website, it goes on our social media, so that people have a fresh look at in the coming week, what are the closures and the disruptions going to be for traffic impacts. So I think we're going to wrap up there. If our audience could hang on for 1 minute, I think it would be a lovely show of thanks to our guests. If you would please turn on your cameras, and if you'd like to turn on your microphones and make some noise or give them some applause, I know it would be nice for them to be able to see some faces of, their colleagues and those who have joined today. So anybody who wants to, please cameras and mics, and big round of applause for our guests. Thank you guys for help keeping the roads open and safe, and for everything you do, from crazy work hours and not enough sleep and your super calm demeanor under stress and all the rest of it. So cheers and kudos. So thank you very much for taking time to join us today. A shout out to everybody else about Inside AOT. You do not need to wait to get tapped to come on the show. If you are jazzed about the work you do and you'd like to come on alone or with a partner on your team or a small group like we had today, please just email me. If you're a supervisor or manager and there's someone on your team who you think would enjoy being on the show and talking about their work. Really, our main a top criterion is that we try to keep it among the ranks and not, invite our top executive staff. While we always love to hear from them, this is a chance for all of us to talk with one another about, the work that's really being done on a staff level. So keep it in mind, and the next Inside AOT will be in a few months, and the announcement will be in your inbox. So again, Ryan, Ian, and Roger, thank you so much for sharing your time and your experience and your thoughts with us today. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, Amy,
Hey,
for
Ryan.
putting it together.